So in a certain sense, like, if you're not present and you've not dropped out of story, you're not present and you're in story. If you're in story, that means you're not living now, you're living a false past, because you can't remember it properly, nobody can, and a false future. It has to be false because it's a projection of what you think will happen and hasn't happened yet. If you're lost in story, you're very, very vulnerable and you're very, very susceptible to being conned, because it makes you impressionable because you're not rooted in reality. Look, now is all there is. Like, if it's a story, it can't be now, and if it's not now, then it's not real. So being invested in story is the same thing as saying that you're invested in fantasy. It's the same thing as saying that you're invested in a kind of non-sanity. If we start from a presupposition that, you know, like the niche, micro niche tradition that blends Zen and psychotherapy would say, okay, sanity is when the environment that is outside of you is reflected accurately by the thoughts you think about it, where the map becomes the territory. And non-sanity would be where the map has nothing to do with the territory, or very, very little to do with the territory. It's projection, it's illusion, it's hallucination, it's introjection. The essence of Zen is to try and hold up a mirror to that which is, and to represent it with as little projection, introjection and story as possible, to just take it as it is. So you end up with a lot of the Zen tradition stories featuring Zen masters, monks and nuns, with a very solid approach to that which is, that is extremely accepting. When we can't accept that which is, there's a temptation to hide in story and to hide in narrative. People who are hiding in narrative, though, as I say, are very, very vulnerable. They're very, very susceptible because it makes you impressionable. Imagine if you watch TV all day. Imagine if you watch the news all day. Imagine if you spent all day watching telenovelas. Imagine if you trained your mind to think of your life as though it were a film. This does not advantage you. There may be some short-term gain in that you would develop a good capacity to fool other people into thinking that your life is a certain way, because you become a master of controlling illusion. You become a master of manipulating the perceptions of others. When we talk about people in the cluster B spectrum, we've already established that these are people who, to varying degrees, if they haven't mastered it, that art of wielding a story like a weapon, they're certainly highly invested in it. You've got to be careful of stories. Be careful when stories are used against you, and be careful when you are getting caught up in somebody else's story. You do have the capacity to say, this is not mine. I don't consent to this. I don't agree to the shared reality of what this is. This is propaganda. And it's propaganda with an agenda. And the agenda is not my agenda. This ain't my agenda. I didn't attend this meeting. I didn't agree to this version of events. Being lost in story is tragic. Being lost in story is, I think, what films like Gen Xers will remember the films The Neverending Story and Labyrinth. Being lost in a story, being lost in a fantasy, I think is what some of these modern day myths are pointing to the danger of. It's very easy now. Be careful with television, be careful with films, be careful with social media, be careful with the technology, be careful of dissociating and leading a fantasy life. It is not a good future for us collectively to create a generation of Walter Mitty's living a fantasy life, and it's certainly not good for you as an individual. If you're trying to progress and you're trying to live with authenticity and you're trying to be a real person, and you're invested only in the spectacle elements of your life, what are you not invested in? Because because you only have so much energy and so much time. So if you're investing 90% of your energy into trying to fool people into thinking that a version of your life is the real one, and only 10% into living your life, you're really not living. This is where I think things are going now. This is where I think social media leads people. It leads people to get more reward from the cheap little dopamine hits of fooling others into thinking that their life is better than it is, which is such a horrible, sad, lonely trap. When I see people stuck in that mindset, I just think it's so depressing. I'm seeing young people in the prime of their lives, like who have good things, who have good things around them. And I'm just sat there and thinking, what would it take for me to convince you to let go of this fucking horseshit? What would it take for me to convince you that the audience you think you're performing for isn't really real, not in the way you seem to think it is, not in the way that your actions and the extent of your energy and investment clearly it indicates you think this is way more important than actually living a real life. Just live your life. Just live your life. Let the story go. Let other people's perceptions be. Don't become a control freak for what other people think. Because one of the things that I've learned over time is people aren't stupid. They can be distracted. They can be narrow-minded. They can get stressed easily, and they can be impressionable. But they're not. To the people who are trying to invest in story a lot, I would just say the people around you aren't as dumb as you think they are. They know what you're up to. They know what you're doing. Like you're revealing way more data about yourself than you think. You think you're pulling a fast one. You think you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, and nobody's saying anything to you because they don't want to hurt your feelings and they can't be bothered with the drama. But it's not really working out in quite the way you think it is, which is why when stuff happens online, people are saying stuff about me or this and that, I tend these days to let it go, because I'm like, I trust that the people with the IQ, the integrity, the capacity to reason philosophically, I trust them. I trust them to see exactly what's going on. They don't say anything. I don't say anything. We all know what's going on. So me adding to it is just an excess. Beware story. I use stories. I've used stories the entire time. You can't get anything else from me in this format, in YouTube format, which is modeled very closely on television. This is basically television. All I can offer you is stories. But I'm not asking you to live a story. I'm not asking you to live a lie. I'm not asking you to live a fantasy. I'm not asking you to live like you're a character in a novel or a telenovela or a play or a film. I'm trying gently to encourage people to come back to reality and to live authentically. Stop trying to manipulate an imaginary audience. Stop trying to... It's not a game where you score points. I know it can feel like that sometimes, and I know that it's easy to get sucked into the social media reality and the TV reality and to think that it is a game where you're scoring points. There's no points. There's just time. There's just reality. There's just life. And one day we'll all be dead, and none of this will count. So why invest time in something that can't really give anything back? Nowadays I'm understanding more and more why so much I felt for a long time, for decades, like it was a fetish, that so much emphasis was placed on meditation and being in the moment. And I'm like, that's just some weird, that's just Westerners getting hard nipples over fucking something that's foreign and exotic and from far away. No, I was wrong. It is an investment. It protects you. It brings you back to that which is and takes you away from illusion. Illusion is the enemy. Reality is the friend. Yes, even if it sucks, you're always going to be safer facing the reality than you are trying to hide in an illusion, or run in an illusion, or fight in an illusion, or fawn in an illusion. Because reality is that which is, and that other stuff is not. You're better off with that which is than that which is not. You're always going to be building your house on what was that biblical story, but building the house on sand? And you're going to have to fight to maintain a permanently crumbling illusion. It will be exhausting. Just accept what is. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. None of it is that bad. That's the story. The story is hysterical. The story is drama. The story is like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. Nah, it's not, It's not. There's worse things going on out there. Way worse things. Way worse things. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take a breath. It's not that bad. Stay calm. Stay in the moment. Stay out of story, or try to bring yourself back to reality, and enjoy being present. Final thought. I said the M word, M, which is meditation. Meditation is not to be thought of as a binary state of either you're meditating or you are not, nor is it to be thought of as something that you perform that you can get wrong. It is only quietening of the mind. The metaphors that I was familiar with when I was a teenager would be of ripples on a pond. A thought comes, and it's like a big stone that gets thrown into a pond, and it ripples. And then another thought comes, and then a pebble comes, and then a stone comes, and then a pebble comes, and there's ripples, and there's splashes, and there's waves. And then the pool settles again. The pool settles back. It doesn't need to be perfectly settled. It just needs to be somewhat settled. You don't need to meditate perfectly. You don't even need to think of it as meditation. You just think of it as quieting the mind, coming back to your body, coming back to the present moment, and going, okay, what's here now? What's this? Thisness. And just let the pond settle. And just sit with your thoughts. Don't fight them. Don't try and kill them. Don't try and do mushin. Don't try and do no mind. That's like it's not even black belt. That's like third degree black belt stuff. And it's not necessary. A quiet mind though, that's good. It's really, really good. You quietened your mind a little bit today. Maybe you did 2 or 3 minutes. Tomorrow you'll quieten it even more, and it will go for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's a muscle. You just flex it, work it, and then let it go, and then flex it and work it, and let it go, and then flex it and work it, and let it go, and eventually it becomes a strength, and you become more and more present. When you're present, when you're grounded, you'll feel more safe, because you're not running away inside your head, chasing around after crazy illusions. And as ever, be careful, be very conscious and careful to that which you offer, the most precious and sacred thing you have, which is your time, which cannot be bought. No amount of money buys time. Is your time and the quality of your attention, your conscious awareness. So, thank you for offering me your time and your attention, and I hope you get a good return on investment.